All right. Golf Clash has announced the new Christmas tournament. It's going to start December 23rd. So it'll start next Monday, and it's going to be on brand new holes. We've got the Grunberg Slopes. So these holes, in my understanding, is they were supposed to come out for the fall major. So in my opinion, when they do these majors, they need to make them super tough, and these holes look like they fit the bill. So one of the toughest sets of holes that came out was in the 2017 Christmas tour. If you think of several of the par fours and par fives that are super hard to get even birdies on them or eagles on a par five, those Christmas holes, and just looking at these holes, they look like they're in that group. They're supposed to come out on Thursday the 19th so that we can start practicing. And they're going to be in Tours 4 for Rookie, Tours 8 for Pro and Expert, and Tour 11 for Masters. So people will get to practice from whatever tee they're going to be playing from in the tournament. I like the fact that they're going to be in Tour 4, so we'll be able to play friendlies with our clanmates. So if you're in a clan, great reason to be friends on friends so that you can play. And now one of the things that I like to do, let's go take a look at the holes here. One of my teammates, Des, thank you, Des, for posting these high-res photos. You get to take a look at them. So hole number 1 is a par 4. So here's my MO when I come out to holes that are brand new. I have no idea what the distances are. I don't know if we can get out into this area or if this area down here is good. A lot of this is going to be dependent on wind. So typically, Golf Clash gives us, or Playdemic gives us favorable winds on every hole. So here's the clubhouse. Let's start over. Here's the clubhouse in real golf. This is hole number 1. Here's the tee box. So the clubhouse is going to be somewhere back in this area back here. So we got a clubhouse back here. So hole number 1 starts at the clubhouse. Hole number 10 ends at the clubhouse. Or excuse me, 9 ends at the clubhouse. Hole number 10 starts at the clubhouse, and hole number 18 ends at the clubhouse. So, you've got a clubhouse here, and you've got one hole going out, one hole coming in, and one hole going out, and one hole coming in, and the rest of the holes are wrapped around this. So if the wind was blowing this way, wherever you were at, hole number 1, you're going to get a side wind. Hole number 9, you're going to get a headwind. Hole number 18, you're going to get a tailwind. And so you have this predominant thing. Golf Clash doesn't do that, or Playdemic doesn't do that. So typically on all these big holes, we get somewhat favorable wind, or we'll get some kind of headwind, or excuse me, tailwind, to help get distance. So when I come on these holes, let's take this side over here as A and this side over here as B. If my opponent, so the first day that I play brand new holes, I come out with a Marlin. And I like to look at the holes as this is a par 4. So the minimum score that we're looking for is typically a -1. So we're looking for a birdie on this. What is the easiest way to get a birdie? If you're playing from the rookie tees, what's the easiest way to get a birdie with a Marlin? And what club would I bring? Because I'm always looking at them from the perspective of, if we're playing these in one-on-one, what's the easiest way to get up there and get that birdie? Because I'm always looking for what's the easiest way to get minimum score. So the first day I go out, I'm playing, like the first 3-4 hours. Once I hit all the holes 1 or 2 times, looking for, like what's the best way to get minimum score. If my opponent takes A, I will take B. If my opponent takes B, I'll take A. So that way I can go back and look, and I can watch when they're playing, and I'm rooting for them. I want them to end up in the fairway, because I really want to get a good idea of, like what kind of distance they got, what ball they brought, so that I can start keeping some notes on this. Like, hey, that shot that they had down there, like if they were shooting down into this area right here, they got a short iron, and I ended up over in this area right here, and I've got a long iron, and I had to bridge this gap, and it was a little bit of work. But I will always try and always take the opposite of what my opponent does, just so that I can see what it looks like. And we're practicing. So if you're out there with your teammates, this is a great time to practice. I'm also always looking for shots where I can do max overpower hooks on some of these holes. And on the right hand, or excuse me, left hand side, if I can talk today, we've got all these trees out here. So if we're at the tee box trying to get to this area right here to maybe get really close to the hole, it doesn't look like we can do a max overpower hook over here because of these trees. Or if we've got a club like an upper developed rock that's got lots of curl, or an apocalypse, you may not be able to put all of that curl on there because of those trees. So that'll be something we'll have to keep an eye on. Coming into the green, I'm not sure. A lot of times, like they'll give us different ways to look at it. Like maybe this is short iron and this is long iron coming in. So I'm not sure until we get out there and play it what the deal is. But when you're out there, when you first start playing these holes, don't be afraid to take like, hey, this does look like, one side looks like it's better than the other. Like, wow, this side right here looks like it's better. This is hole number 2. It's a par 5. Maybe this side's better. If your opponent takes that side, take the other way. Don't be afraid to lose some on these days when we're out there practicing the holes. So on hole number 2, this is a par 5. Whew, that's a big par 5. I'm just wondering, like from the tee box, it looks like from the rookie tees, like we could probably get out into this tip. I'm not sure what kind of ball we'd have to use, and I'm not sure what kind of ball we'd have to use to get on this side down here. The problem that I don't like about the lower side on the right hand is that if you could get out here, your second shot, having to negotiate over that, you'd want to be able to land on the other side. I wouldn't want to have to bounce it over and then use topspin to get it up there. Whereas if you're on this side right here, you've got a pretty nice trough coming down. You've got green, you got fairway all the way down to the green. So you don't have to negotiate with the sand if you go to the left. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of distances we can get. If you're playing from the second or the third tee, pro, expert, and masters from those tees, that getting over to one of these fairways, you'll probably have to start off on this one and then run it up. And it looks like I would definitely explore trying to get on this side right here, because you do have a much better look at it from over here than you would from this way trying to come back across. Plus, you have to go over this sand to get over to this side. Then you've got to negotiate over some traps in order to get up to the green. And you definitely don't want to end up short up here and then having to bounce it over. So this side right here looks like the obvious choice, but we'll have to wait until we see when we get out there. So that's hole number 2. Hole number 3, big par 3 here. It looks like from the rookie tees that coming in at it on the lower end is probably going to be the way to go. From the second and third tees, especially from the third tees, depending on your landing zone out here, you've got this narrow little neck, whereas you could bring it out here and then bring it back to the hole. There is some kind of a depression or some kind of movement out here in this part of the course. Like right in this area right here, you can see where there's a little depression right there. And so there's some hilly stuff. So if you're trying to bring it around this way, there is going to be some movement on the hole. I'm curious to see whether this green is one of those ones where the back part of the green is elevated and the pin's somewhere on a hill, where you could roll it down, and actually if you've got a club with great ball guide, you could funnel it down in there. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. This hole looks like it's going to be one of those types of par 3s that you're going to be able to run it up to the hole. You don't have to necessarily bring a backspin club. You may be able to just run it up there. Typically on those holes, you have a better shot of getting a hole in one when you're either using just a little teeny bit of backspin just to control the ball, or you can find that funnel by using the topspin and moving it around and trying to run it up there. And these pictures are not showing, they're not going to give us any elevations. We're not going to see what elevations we've got until we get out on the course. So hole number 3 is a par 3. Hole number 4. Whew. This is a big par 4. And these the curious thing here would be, it looks like from the tee box, not sure. Let me see if I can scroll in there a little. Not sure if this is a tree or a bush. It doesn't look like there's any obstructions out here. This looks like it's rocks. That looks like it might be a bush and some rock out here, where you might be able to do a max overpower hook shot coming in this area and trying to bleed it all the way down here to the top. Typically on these par fours, we'll have, like, this would be a short iron, this would be a long iron, this would be a wood. This area up here, maybe in one-on-one play, this top area would be the area to go and bring a wood, because it looks like a pretty safe shot where you could do a layup right here and then come up at the green depending on what wood you have in your bag. This shot down here to get down into the arm, down into this little finger arm, however you want to look at it, is definitely QB rock, something with lots of accuracy. You got, if you watched people at the top of the game upgrading their clubs on the day when the max club card stuff trading came out, you can see that a lot of those epics now have 100% accuracy or dang close to it. So an accurate club to get down into this finger, this would be a layup. The curious thing would be is to find out whether we can bridge this gap to try and bring our ball down into this area where we could get into short iron range. And that may be, I'm not sure where our initial landing zone would be. Based on the tee box, we may be able to get our initial landing somewhere in this area. And if that's the case, then we might be able to do a max overpower hook to get over. Or if we had a club that had some topspin on it, we might be able to get up there and bridge the gap. If you've got an extra mile 9 with the extra topspin that it has, in the past, if you had a big topper, usually if you had your extra mile to, let's say, level 6, you had your big topper to level 3, maybe 4, probably 3. If you had an extra mile 8, you may have your big topper to level 4 or 5. You would get more distance out of your big topper than you would out of your extra mile. But if you've got an extra mile level 9, if you got one of those in your bag, it now can generate more distance, raw distance, because number one, it got picked up like 15, 16 yards of topspin, plus another yard or two of distance. But I'll be curious to see whether or not I can bridge that gap to get down into this area. But this looks like it could be a dangerous hole, especially if you're trying to get up into that finger. Bring accurate stuff. If this finger is the shot that we're looking at, this is definitely something we want to bring accurate clubs to. In one-on-one play, though, I think I'm probably, when I come to these holes looking to try and get the minimum, this spot up here, even though we'd be coming in probably with a wood, is probably the safest way to get your birdie. But once we figure out what the safest way to get a birdie is, then our next goal is to figure out what's our options for trying to get an eagle. That was hole number 4. Hole number 5, another par 3. All right. For my own personal game, I don't normally like to bounce stuff where I'm bringing things from the left to the right. So based on where the tee box is, let me get to the hole here. Based on where the tee box is, if we come out into this area and then bridging this gap, jumping over the sand or this rough area, there may be a rough bump in this where you might be able to do a rough bump right here and run it up towards the hole. I think the rough down here is way too far away. But if you were coming from this direction right here, there may be a bounce overshot that you can do. And there is also a possibility of a rough bump on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, if we started off down here at the bottom and then trying to come up, and if you're from the back tees, that may be, a lot of times, Playdemic, on the way that they set these holes up, this shot from down here may give you your best look at a hole-in-one. My typical MO on these par 3s is, number one is, what can I do to eliminate traps? So I want to eliminate all these traps. So I would typically start off on the green side, because then it's just me and the green. Even if I make a bad wind adjustment or if I hit it great to the left or the right, I'm still going to end up on the green. I get my putt and move on. You can see that there is some kind of movement in the course right in this area. It looks like there's a little depression here and a little depression here. So there's some kind of movement there. So if you do decide to come close to the hole, I would get in front of those and try and hit somewhere out in this area right here. So you're in front of all of the traps and that depression, because this depression is going to give you an irregular bounce. So if you do hit it great to the left or the right, you could end up way great to the left or the right. Still on the green, but you'd end up off trajectory. So if we're trying for the straightforward one, this looks like it's a long hop, but it's hard to tell based off of this until we get out there on the course. There may be a pretty good bounce over here, and there may be a rough bump. So one of my teammates, Kyle, I can guarantee you he's going to look at this rough bump. Guarantee it. That'll be the first shot that he takes. My first goal is to start off on the green and see what that looks like, and then I can go from there. I'm not a big fan of getting pars on par threes during a tournament. Not a fan at all. All right, hole number 6. This is another big par 5. Whew. I don't see any way that we're getting over to this green. Now, there may be a shot where you lay up out here where you could get up out into this area and you'd come at it from this direction where you'd bounce off the tip and you'd bridge the gap to come up to the green. But I don't see us taking some max overpower hook shot to try and get from here all the way through this area to get on this green. It might be possible, but it doesn't look like it from this image. So if we take this being the A side, this being the B side, it'll depend on where our landing zone is out here. What I don't like about the B side is that we're obviously not going to be able to start off past this neck. So we're going to be rolling through this neck. Even if we could start off in this area, we're going to be rolling through that neck. And it's the narrowest part of the entire fairway, and it has movement. So, I mean, we're going in this area like this. So it's going to be one of those blind curl shots where the ball guide is showing you going off in this direction. And if your landing zone was here, you're going to have to bring it over to here based off of practice on the hole. You need to be 3 rings off of this transitional surface. If we can get over to this side, the curious thing would be is whether we could bleed off down this and end up down in this area. I'm not sure, we'll have to get out there and take a look at it, but I can guarantee you the first time I get on this hole, no matter what my opponent does, I'm doing the opposite because I want to see what both sides of this look like. And maybe the shot is to lay up out here and to come at it like this. Consistency-wise, that looks to me like it would be a safe bet. If you can get out into this area, you could use the tip out here to bounce over and get to the green, as opposed to trying to get down into this area and then coming in, because you still got work to do over here. You got to negotiate past that sand trap down there by the green. So hole number 6 is the that par 5 right there. Let's go to hole number 7. Another par 3. I'm not sure if it looks, this fairway area right here looks like it's like this, like it's got there's a low spot and a high spot and a high spot, but that might just be the shadows going across it. This may be flat. Definitely not using this pad in any way, shape, or form. There's no way I'm going to bounce off of one pad, go to the next pad, and go to the next pad. I am not playing putt-putt golf. If that was the case, if that was my only shot, I'm bringing whatever club I have to land directly on the green and use lots of backspin and stick it to the green. More than likely, our landing zone is going to be out here, and you're going to run it up. Because once again, the way Playdemic sets these holes up, that'll probably be your best shot at getting a hole-in-one. But there is also more than likely some kind of backspin shot here where you could start off on the fringe and then run it up to it. That rough that's down there that's got the snow on it, there could be a rough bump on this hole where you could either land on this fairway and bounce it over, you could land in the rough and run it up, or you could start off on the green. One of those 3 is going to give us the best opportunity, and it's going to depend on the wind. I don't like doing, like this rough isn't that bad because you're far enough away from the pin that you're going to have to put top spin on in order to get it up there. And so if you've got a headwind and you make a bad wind adjustment, the rough here is wide enough And if you set yourself, a couple rings into the rough and you made a bad wind adjustment, you could probably still get out of it and end up on the green. What I don't like is when you have those real narrow roughs and you've got a headwind or a tailwind and you make a bad wind adjustment, you're toast, because if you could easily get stuck in the rough. What I typically like if I'm going to do a rough bump is I like to have some kind of a side wind, because if you make a bad wind adjustment, it doesn't make any difference. You're just going to miss the cup on one side or the other. But it looks like we do have some options on this par 3. That's hole number 7. Hole number 7. Hole number 8. Whew, that's a big par 4. So this might be, there's several other, this whole configuration is a common theme with Playdemic. So, A side, B side, do you get down into here or do you go up into here? Here you've got a straight in shot. But this may be, depending on distance, this may be a long iron and this may be a short iron. Or they may both be long irons, or this might be a long iron and that might be a wood. Even though these two don't seem that far apart, this is going to have a lot to do with the wind. If the wind that we're playing with here is going in this direction, then A is maybe the better option. When we do our drive shot, we're going to be hitting against a crosswind with some forward movement. So we could use that wind. So we got to make a great wind adjustment on the drive. So depending on the length here, this is definitely looks to me like it's going to be a QB or a rock hole, something with some accuracy to get it up into that tip. And so you'll be hitting that drive against a little bit of side wind if the wind was blowing in this direction. But once you get out here and you're going towards the cup, now you've got a pure tailwind. If the wind was blowing in this direction, even though there's not that big of a difference in the wind direction, this might be a better area, because now when you're going to the cup, you've got a pure tailwind. Any other wind, it may not matter, but this looks like it's definitely could be the difference between long iron and short iron. And I don't mind these types of shots when you're getting down into these holes like this. And I can think of, I can't remember the name of the holes, but I can think of at least 3 holes in Golf Clash that have the same kind of movement on the course, where you've got to negotiate down to get down into these areas. And in every single one of those holes that I can think of, this is the better end to get onto. But it is the harder end to get onto. This is the obvious easier shot. But, depending on what kind of distance we get, whether or not what you have here, and the wind can make and play a difference. So that is hole number 8. Hole number 9. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a tough hole. You know it. So the obvious choice is like this area out here. But think about where the tee box is and those trees. In order to clear that, you've got to get out into this area out here. So, if we draw that, there's the first tree, just trying to negotiate, and there's that one. You need to get out into this area in order to have a straight in shot. If you end up out here, now you're going to have to bring it around. So just be prepared for that if you end up short. In one-on-one play, this looks like the easier shot, where you could net more because you're going to have a much wider area to get in. But this is going to be a lot dependent on what kind of wind we have, on which way you want to take that second shot. This may be the obvious easy way to get in. But if the wind's blowing this way, that makes it even better. But if the wind's blowing this way, now we're hitting this shot against the side wind. Whereas if we landed out here, we're hitting it on a tailwind. And so it's easier to make wind adjustments with a tailwind. If you mess your wind adjustment up a little bit, you could still end up in the hole. Big holes. I have a feeling that these holes are going to be a lot of fun, but they're going to be, I'm hoping that, because they did set these up for a major, that these are going to be some pretty difficult holes to play. And so it's really important when you go out there to try and learn as much as you can. And like I said earlier in the video, if your opponent hits to the A side, hit to the B side so you can see what that looks like. If your opponent hits to the B side, hit to the A side. and do that until you can get a feel for every side. So if you came to this hole the first time and you hit the B side, hit it from the A side so that you can see what it looks like. The first time I run through these holes, I'm not worried about winning or losing. I want to bring, I bring a marlin ball because I want to play it like I was trying to play one-on-one. This par 5, we're trying to get a -2. Okay, we're trying to get a birdie. So what's the easiest way to get that? Or excuse me, eagle. What's the easiest way to get that eagle? Okay, now that I know that, okay, if you're out here and you got a marlin, you can't get up there. Okay, and if you're out here and you got a marlin, you can't get up there. You're SOL. Okay, one of these ways you're going to be able to do it. Probably out in this area right here on the B side. But I'm curious to know on the A side, like you probably want to get, I'm really big on markers on the course. And so, you know, clearing this shadow would probably be a big goal. Like if you could get out here in the tip past that shadow. So use markers like that when you're on the course, like, hey, I came out there and I did it and I only ended up here. And looking at where your start is to try and get up into those areas. All right, that is some, we'll go through them one more time. Just kind of, thanks Des, one more time. Hole 1, par 4. Hole 2, par 5. Hole 3, par 3. Hole 4, par 4. This is an interesting looking hole. I'm curious to see how this actually plays out. This finger out here is I'm curious about this finger because there are several other holes where you can hit into the finger, but in one-on-one play, I'd probably hit out to here more often than not. But in the tournament, this may be the shot. Which hole is that? Oh, sorry about that. Messing up. Par 5. Hole 5, par 3. Hole 6, par 5. Hole 7, par 3. Hole 8, par 4. Let's see if the train's coming by. I'm almost positive that on this hole right here, this lower tip down here is going to be the one that we're going to be playing to. Hole number 9, par 5. All right. Well, what'll happen is on Thursday, I'll start playing some friendlies. I got a couple of my teammates, and we'll go out there and start playing and see what's available on these holes. And I will definitely be taking odd shots that first day because we want to see are there some max horsepower hooks on some shots on some holes? Is there rough bumps on some holes? Which side, A or B, is the side to take? Are there more than A and B options? Maybe some of these holes have 3 different ways that you can play them. So I will start posting videos on Thursday, and I will try and get as much play in as I possibly can so that I can show these holes and get a playlist going. Thanks for watching.